All right. Morning, everybody. All right, it's good to be back here.
Good to have you back.
Nice to see everybody. And it's always difficult to leave, not because I won't see you guys, but because I don't learn it as well. The sugyos, and when I come back, I feel like I jump into the ocean. All right, but anyway,
The last 3 days also. Fine.
and as we get today's Daf Lamed Zayin. Yes. I look like Yemenite. I look like there you go. All right. All right. Says Daf Lamed Zayin. Second Nazir. We 5 lines from the top. So we were discussing this word nishras, right? Infuse, a word that was used describing. I believe the grapes or the wine in terms of infused. What does it mean? So Amar Leah Abaye, 5 lines on the top of lines Lamed Zayin Nun Aleph. Amar Leah Abaye Mimai Dahai Mishras Lehetim Mitzaref L'Yisur. So who says the word Mishras comes to teach us the concept which we have been discussing the last couple of blocks of Heter Mitzaref L'Yisur. In other words, if you have 2 items that you can combine, if you have them together, you can combine that which really is permitted to be combined with the prohibition in order to get to the minimum shear in order to be chayiv for it. So who says the also that's coming for that purpose? Maybe it's coming to teach us another concept, right? Which is that something that is infused with the flavor or the taste of something that was usher is now that item becomes usher, right? Such as you have bread that was soaked with forbidden wine. Now that bread, if you eat the bread, it's like you had the wine, right? So that's litain tam kis. It's a kicker, right? So Dawson. So the Gemara says, and side notes, Abaye, and according to Abaye, who's the one asking this question, he was asking earlier, my Dekama Rav Dimi, right? He was asking on Rav Dimi, the Shiva called Ma'isiv Kolhan Tiyufta, right? And Rav Dimi, we asked all the different kashas before against how we learned up the sugya, and then he responded. So over here, Abaye seems to say, right, that the question is that the word mishras. Why don't we learn tam kicker? So before he was asking on that whole concept, right? So hadam litain tam kicker, right? And over there, all the terutzim are saying litain tam kicker. So in other words, it seems like the Abaye is on a 180. So the Gemara says no. Basar deshani lei is so amar lei. Right, so he says, after all the terutzim over there, where he says no, it can be tam kicker. That's where he asked over here, the Shani Lei, Amar Lei, Dumali saying, Litain Tam Kicker. It's only after those terutzim. In other words, don't say that Abaye contradicts himself. Rather, there's an order, right? And those kashas were first, and now after Rav Dimi was able to be, or we were able to be mitaritz on behalf of Rav Dimi, that maybe there was Litain Tam Kicker. Maybe that's all it means. Hudasa. So maybe Dumali Litain Tam Kicker Hudasa. Look at the Tana's going to Brisa. Mishras. The pasuk says Mishras when it comes to Nazir. Litain Tam Kicker. Shem Shara Anavim b'mayim. Person goes ahead and leaves grapes and water. The Yeshbem Tam Yayin. Then you go ahead and you drink the water. Then you will be chayiv. Umikan, it says this Bryce, and from here Mikan Ata Don Palisum Shabbat. Over here you can learn other isurim in the Torah. Then in other words, to say this concept of Tam Kicker. And Uman Nazir Sheni Surah Israelam, that the by Nazir that is Isra is not necessarily Israelam. In other words, let's say it's 30 days, right, or a certain period of time. And it's not there is no prohibition of getting benefit. In other words, I'm allowed to go ahead and own a vineyard and sell wines if I'm a Nazir. I just can't drink it. So there's no Isra Hana, but it's not Isra Eilam, and if I really need, I can go ahead and be matir my Nazirus. Nevertheless, over there, nevertheless, we're maximum. We say, hey, if something tastes like the wine, it's considered like wine. So kilaya kerem. So let's say something which is kilaya kerem, right? You grow kilayim in the ground. You grow let's say wheat next to grapes. right? And you now have shatnez of the ground, right, as opposed to the clothes, the kilei kirim. So over there, kilei kirim, sheisuna sa'ilam, that's isser ilam, no, it's also forever. Bisuna isser hana, and also you're not to get it's isser hana. They had to leisuron, and you can't be materet. Einu did she asked about tam kicker. Isn't it obvious that we should say that's a tam kicker? That case, in other words, let's say there was some grapes, right, that grew next to wheat, right, is kilei kirim. And then those grapes were sitting in water, and that water tastes like the grapes, like the wine. So that should be also like kilei kirim, right? And then certainly this is also probably, let's say the orla, right? Something which is like the first 3 years of a fruit tree, right? The stein, there's 2 of these factors. In other words, it has a factor of isser hana, and you can't be matir it, right? The only one that doesn't apply to it is that it doesn't last forever because it's only 3 years, right? So Rabbanan says no. Rabbi Avo, that which Rabbi Avo says. Who's Rabbi Avo? He was one who introduced over there the 2 dots. I think it was in Lamed Hay and Beis over there. So over there, it was Rabbi Avo. I think it was, right? If I'm not mistaken. Maybe not. Let's see if I can find that. In the Rabbi Yechanan, he was the one who stated the sheet of Rabbi Yechanan, right? Amar Rabbi Avo, Amar Rabbi Yechanan, close to Shabbat Torah, and at the Mitzvah Yisr. So in other words, that over there of Rabbi Avo, Pikam Rabbi Kiva. He was so he says, Haumi Rabbana, right? So then this was only so they said that this is Rabbi Avo. He was talking about referring to Rabbi Kiva. Now it's not the question of the Rabbanan, right? To go ahead and to learn this thing of Tam Kicker. He was only according to Rabbi Kiva. So the Gemara says, "Hi, Rabbi Kiva. Which Rabbi Kiva? Elim Rabbi Kiva. If it's called Rabbi Kiva of our Mishnah, the time Rabbi Kiva Imer Hafilu Sharapita B'Yain V'Yesh B'Kadel Tzar Kazai is Chayev." And maybe does the Rabbi Kiva the Mishnah where it says person goes ahead and he soaks his bread in wine, and there's another to be kazai is his chayiv. I mean, and who says over there the whole reason is because it's heter Messiah the Yisr, right? Duma hudika kazai is beina. Maybe there's enough wine that's being soaked in the bread that is the kazayis. If that's the case, what's the chiddush there? Now, you don't need to be mistarif any Isser, any heter to the Yisr, and that there's a shear of the Yisr, of course it's going to be Yisr. So said maybe it's to know he's not coming to give that halacha in terms of the mistarif heter Yisr. Rather, maybe he's only coming to give you halacha in what is the shear. Right? Tanakama says when it comes to the wine, it has to be a revis, which revis yain, or a quart of a lug, which is more. And then says Rabbi Kiva, no, it only has to be a kazayis. If it's in the bread, it only has to be a kazayis of the wine that's soaked in the bread. So if it's that Rabbi Kiva, we can say no, that Rabbi Kiva is not telling you Mitzaref Hetel Yisr. He's actually that's the full kazayis is of the wine. There's no heter being Mitzaref there. El Rabbi Kiva the Brisa, rather is Rabbi Kiva this Brisa which says the payers the tiny little Brisa. Rabbi Kiva Oimer Nazir Shechar Pita B'Yayin, a Nazir who went ahead and soaked his bread in wine, the achol kazayis mikash miyayin, or somebody eats a kazayis of bread and wine. Now, bread is not aser, bread is heter, right? Wine is aser, and you start to do that it is chayv. So now we see over there according to Rabbi Akiva, the two of them together, that is mitzaref. So we see according to Rabbi Akiva holds beferish that it's heter, mitzaref heter yisr.
Is it the quantity or
the
kazayit versus a much larger bread?
Right. So the kazayit,
even by Rabbi Akiva.
So according to Rabbi Akiva, if you have enough bread, right, or the wine, the amount of wine that's soaked into it, even if the bread is more, but the amount of wine is itself enough kazayis, you don't need the bread, and therefore it's usher. So you don't have to come on to the concept. But over here he says, no, even if one goes ahead and has bread plus wine, and the two of them together are kazayis, even though the bread is mutter, then it's us. Fine. So I'm a later Rabacha. No, because Hester Mitzaref Le'Yisr. Hester Mitzaref Le'Yisr. No, you're right, because you have them together.
Based on that.
But it only applies to the case of the zeros.
No. We see they both learn it out. In the other case, that's what we're going to do today. So now we're going to see the let's see. Some later Rabacha. So Rabbi Kiva, according to Rabbi Kiva, the Kalmeikim Lo Lahai V'Chol Nishras Lahadam Mitzaref Le'Yisr, who we just showed, uses the word V'Chol Nishras to teach Heter Mitzaref Le'Yisr. So Litain Tam Kicker Minole. So where does he know the concept of Litain Tam Kicker? If something tastes like something, then it takes upon that prohibition. So we can learn for the Yisr Basar V'Chalam. Lab Tam Yamahu. isn't just flavor. The usher, it's usher. In other words, something basar b'chalav, milk and meat, or all of a sudden your burger tastes a little bit like, right, like milk. So therefore, it's the tam litem kambia. So there's our meat is normally is mutter, but now this meat is usher because it tastes like milk, right? Hakanami loishnat. So too, any case, it should teach you tam kicker. The Gemara says, but Rabbanan because we can't learn from there. Why? The chidushu, because it's a chidush. Basar b'chalav. Why? So my chiddush. What is the chiddush by basar b'chalav that you can't learn from it? So that each one independently is mutter. My milk is mutter. My meat is mutter. But I bring them together, it's aser. Hi, that's a big chiddush. So kilayim nami. So to kilayim, right? You can wear wool, you can wear linen, but you can't wear them together, right? You can grow wheat, you can grow grapes, you can't grow them together. So the aser. So that's not a chiddush. We find that by other isurim. Ella, no. What's the chiddush by basar b'chalav? The tarle kula yayma b'chalba. One goes ahead and let's say has something soaked in milk, then it's shari on a deraisa level, that it's mutter. It was just sitting in it cold. It was not cooked in it. However, however, if you cook it together, then it's aser. So now that's a chiddush there. If it's just sitting there, you didn't turn the fire on, so it's mutter, right? But if you cook it, then it's aser. So therefore, we see that. But the knowledge, so the isra basar b'chalav midaraisa, right, is only when it's cooked. If it's not just if it's raw. So therefore, it's a chiddush. Rabbi Kiva Nami said that's the case. How does Rabbi Kiva learn tam kicker from basar b'chalav? Rabbi Kiva Nami, basar b'chalav chiddush. It's a chiddush. So Ella, rather he learns yalif. Rather he learns it from migi ilule ayimdei kuchav. Right, from that which we have by Midyan. Right, when they came in, they said, "Go ahead and take their pots and their pans, throw them in a fire, and then you'll remove the yisr." Right, they'll remove the yisr from. So we learn from there. The Amrachman of the Torah says over there, called davar asher yava be'esh. It says anything that comes to the fire, it will be okay. L'meimra, the asiri gilu yadik chavim, to tell us that if you didn't put it in the fire, it would be usher, right? It's telling you to put in the fire to make it permissible. So if you don't put in the fire, it's usher, right? So what's the usher? The guy cooked in his dish, right, before the midyan, right? The guy from midyan, right? So he cooked it before. Now it's usher. It's a lot of the mayor be'alma, right? Is it not because there's flavor in it, right? The usher, right? So what's the reason why it's easy? Because since there's flavor that was cooked into the side of the pot, that's why it's usher. So to over here, there should be no difference. So let's learn tam kicker from the giule of the kacham.
Before we say that as long as we didn't cook it, it's okay, right?
By basar b'chalav, by milk and meat. This is not milk and meat. This is not milk and meat. This is a case of when they conquered Midyan and they took all their possessions. They said you can't use their pots and pans until you put them in fire. Mashma, that if you didn't put them in the fire, right, then the pots are usher, right? Nothing to do with milk and meat, right? There's just they cook their non-kosher. They put pork in there, right? So the pork that is on this is in the side, right? So you see that the tam kicker, if I would go ahead and cook my kosher meat in it right now, make a soup in it, it would taste tam kicker. So therefore it's usher. So you see over here, tam kicker. I Rabbanan Nami Tevelim Igule. So I want you to buy the Rabbanan learn from there. So why did he learn from Nazir from Nishras? It's a chidushu. The Chotar Kula Naisin Tam Lifgam Mutter. Any time where you have Naisin Tam Lifgam, in other words, if something adds flavor, but it's a bad flavor, right? So this is something that's spoiled, right? It was cooked previously, now it's in there, right? You don't want that. So that flavor, which still has residue, but it's a bad flavor, then it's mutter. So most cases, mutter. But over here, in this case, we're saying it's usher. So it's a chiddush. It's a big chiddush that even though something adds a bad flavor, it's usher. So therefore, it's a chiddush. Rabbi Kiva, it's a chiddush. Nami chiddush. Rav Huna Barachia lo usher tar el kadir bas yema. They'll say that no, we're even talking about dishes that they cooked their pork in yesterday. They cooked it yesterday, so it's not pagam. It's not nice pagam. It's not something they cooked 6 months ago, and that that flavoring would be bad. They cooked it yesterday. The time is fine. There's no issue there. Even that is us. You see, nice and time kicker. Rabbanan, Kadir, Basya, the Lepgam Porta. The Rabbanan says, "Oh, If it's yesterday, it's still a little bit old. It doesn't give 100% good flavor, maybe 90% good flavor, but 10% bad flavor, and therefore it's a chiddush. So Omar le Rav Acha berei the Rav Avia Rav Ashi Avia the Rav how you pronounce Avia, right? The Rav Avia the Rav Ashi. So midrabanan, that sheet of the Rabbanan, nishma Rabbi Kiva. We can learn on Rabbi Kiva, right? So lav Rabbanan, the Rabbanan say, "Hi, mishas litain tam kicker." The Rabbanan learn the mishas to teach the halacha litain tam kicker. And from there, right? According to the Rabbanan mishras, they learn tam kicker and learn to call Yisur Shabbat. All right, so the Rabbi Kiva Nami, the Kalmukim Lula High Mishras, the Heter Mitzvah Yisr, so Rabbi Kiva who used it to learn out Heter Mitzvah Yisr, Leima Mekanata Dan L'Chol Yisur Shabbat Torah. Let's say so too. Just like the Rabbanan want to teach out from Nazir to Kol Torah Kula, Eddie, this is what you touched on a little bit earlier. Let's say according to Rabbi Kiva, who learns Heter Mitzvah Yisr, also is the Kol Torah Kula. No, Mishum Dahavi Nazir V'Chatas Beis Shnei Ksuvim Habayin Kechad. Right? No, because we say that there's actually two psukim that teaches concept. And therefore, he'll say that according to Rabbi Kiva, you can't learn it out. We have Nazir and also by Chatas, right? In order to teach you that Heter Mitzvah Yisr. Both of those cases, and we know and we have this rule that if you have a special halacha and it's said by one thing, you can learn out to anything. But if it's said by two things, so then why did you say it by two things? You could have just said by one thing and learn out to Kol Torah Kula. You say by two things, it must be only specifically these two things and nothing else. Because if it was everything else, you could have just taught in one case, right? So that's the concept of Shnei Ksuvim Ban Kechad Ein Melamdim. So what are the two proofs? Nazir Hadamran. So Nazir we said from the word Mishras. And the Chatas Mahi, what's the case of Chatas? Mitzaref Heter L'Yisur. So Chatas Mahi, the Tanya when the Raisa says V'chol asher yigal b'sara yikdash. Anything that touches the Chatas meat will be Kaidish. Yachav Shala Balach. It didn't. In other words, you have two pieces of meat. My shlamim touched the Chatas. If it didn't absorb it, Tamalayma b'sara in the meat. Ad sheyiva b'sara yikdash. Right. Once it goes ahead and absorbs it, then it will be Kodesh. Then it will have the same status. Liyas Kamo. Shimsulahi Yivasil Bim Ksher Teichel Kechama Shabbat. To teach you, that's it. You have a shlamim, and your shlamim has a longer time period, right? So then it takes upon all of a sudden this shlamim is now infused with the kedusha of the chatas, and you're limited in terms of who can eat it, where they can eat it, when you can eat it. And over here, we don't say it's, in other words, a case of where it gave its flavor, because that'll be pachut. So it must be, right? This is how the Rosh learns that. So it must be, it's teaching you to be Heter Mitzvah Yisr, that even the shlamim and the chatas together, right? Because Aras is or the Chiddush, the two of them together are mitzaref to be a kazayis that won't be chayav for. So therefore, in this case, you have Shnei Ksuvim Ban Kechad, and therefore a melamdim. So therefore, we can't learn to call to our kul. And what would the Rabbanan say to that? I say, no, we need both cases. Sometimes you have two psukim in two places, you need it to teach everybody else, right? Because if one of them, you could argue and say, hey, we can't learn it from that one source. So if we have the other source, we can't learn it from that one source. We need the power of the two sources. So they say, no, we need both psukim, both by Nazir and by Chatas. Because Rachmana Gabi Chatas, if it was by Chatas Havamina Nazir, you can't learn Nazir. Why? Because we don't learn Nazir from Kachim, because Kachim is special, you don't learn it out. Because Rachmana Gabi Nazir, if it was by Nazir Havamina Nazir, Mishum the Chamei Surah. Because the Yisr by Nazir is very chamer. Why? Even something which is the size of the charza, right? Something that's so small as the grape seed is still asr. So therefore, there's a chumrah by Nazir. Maybe I wouldn't be, apply the rule to chatas or shlamim meats. So therefore, we can learn from it. So I Rabbi Kiva. If it just wrote chatas, okay, I understand, right? Lo gamer Nazir mina. You could learn Nazir from it. The chul mekachi lo gamerina. Then you can't learn it. So el lichta v'chmana ben Nazir. Rather, you write Nazir v'tisi chatas mina, and you can learn chatas from it. The hal kol isum shabbat Torah gamim Nazir. Because according to Rabbi Akiva, there is no special chiddush when it comes to Nazir, and you can learn Kol Torah Kol Chumad. So if that's the case, so therefore we see that really we could have learned from Nazir. So why don't we just learn from Nazir? It's another pasuk of Chatas. It must be that Shnei Ksumim B'Bayin Kecha. All right, B'Bayin Kecha, and therefore Emalam. I've Rabban. I'm Lechali say to you, Chatas the hat of Mitzarv L'Yisr. Right? Says no, Chatas can teach you hat of Mitzarv L'Yisr. But we can't go ahead and learn this out from Chulin from Kachim. And Mishras, and the word Mishras, when it comes to Nazir, Lidain Tam Kicker, it's not talking, remember, according to the Rabban, it's not talking about Mitzarv Het Yisr, that's why Tam Kicker, and the Kan Ata Dan Chol Yisr Shotar. And therefore, according to the Rabban, they can go ahead and learn out Tam Kicker Chotar Kula. Rabbi Kiva, and Rabbi Kiva would say, no, both of them Tarvai had to Mitzarv Yisr, V'Havli Hu Shnei Ksum B'An Kechad, V'Chol Shnei Ksum B'An Kechad, Emalandim. Therefore, Emalandim, according to Rabbi Kiva, but according to Rabbanan, you could learn it out because that's Shnei Ksubim, but the two Psukim are talking about different things, and therefore the Rabbanan are able to go ahead and learn out Chotar Kula, but Rabbi Kiva is not because it's a case of Shnei Ksum B'An Kechad. A couple more lines, so then we'll hopefully in the sugya will end. We'll see what brings it to us tomorrow. So Amar L'Chol Rav Ashi to Rav Kahana. So Elo had the time that the Bryce Mechol Asher Yasem Gefen Hayai. Li made Al Yisr Nazir. Shehem Mitzarfin Zeh. So we learn over there that it says over there anything that you from the Gefen Hayai to teach you that it's Mitzarf Zeh Zeh. So the Kiva Hashta Yesh Lamar Het Mitzarf Yisr. I understand. If you're telling me over here there are two parts of Asr Mitzarf, so why do you got to teach me that? If you're already teaching me that Hector is Mitzarf Yisr, of course it's Mitzarf Yisr is Asr, so what do you need this pasuk for? According to Rabbi Kiva. So they say to you, Samarlei, no, Heter L'Isr V'Asachas. If it's the same time, yeah, Heter, then yeah, it's superfluous, right? However, Isr L'Isr Afilu B'Zachar Zeh, but over here the Chiddush is even Zachar Zeh, it's Mitzarf, not together, but Zachar Zeh, it's also Mitzarf. And according to Rabbi Shimon, who the last late Sif knows he doesn't hold there's a minimum shear Kol Shu is Asr. So the Kol Asher Yasa my Darshi, what is his pasuk? It doesn't teach you that Isr is Mitzarf L'Isr because we don't need that because Mashu is Asr. So Amar L'Chai you'd say Havu Boile the Eilam Ein Nazir Ad Sheyasa Mikol. Completely different chiddush. Our halacha, the halacha is that it's not talking about siruf. Rather, it's talking about that when a person becomes a Nazir, he has to be a Nazir from all three things and not just one of the parts. A partial Nazir. All right, we'll stop here. Shech everybody. Nice to be back.
Wine, what is the other two?